Hello! It's been a while. My name's Paco and welcome to the Weekend Recap. There were some truly mind-boggling results this weekend, so without further ado, let's get to those. But I just wanted to remind you guys that, of course, Rabona TV will be doing another 2 watch-alongs this week for the Champions League. So, join us if you can. We had some good fun last week. El Clasico was a great watch this weekend, as both Real Madrid and Barcelona started the match with their defenders only being there in spirit, really. Well, to be fair to said defenders, the 2 goals in the opening 10 minutes, one per team, were actually well-constructed goals. Fede Valverde finished beautifully from a perfectly weighted through ball from Karim Benzema, while Barcelona's well-worked equalizer saw Jordi Alba pick out Barca's new best attacker these days, Ansu Fati, at least the most in form of their attackers. After the embarrassment of losing at home against Shakhtar, a Shakhtar side that was missing over 10 first-team players due to a COVID-19 outbreak within their squad, Real Madrid reacted well in this match. Did they dominate the ball? No, because they're ultimately a pragmatic team that thrives on attacking in transition, and let's be real, they were a bit fortunate with the penalty call in the 60th minute. Now, of course, Clément Lenglet shouldn't have done that. You're forcing the referee into a decision by grabbing onto the shirt, but when he grabbed Sergio Ramos' shirt, Ramos made the most of it. In a post-VAR world, with one of VAR's initial intended purposes being to cut out grappling and shirt pulling from set pieces, then this penalty makes some sense. However, soft it may be. The commentator Phil Schoen pointed out that in calling things like this, shirt pulling, soft or not, it's meant to deter defenders from doing this in the future, and we'll see less of it at corners and free kicks. Now, my immediate thought was, well, all that you are doing is rewarding attackers for going down even easier, and we'll just see more and more of that, rewarding that behavior with penalties. But then, in doing some, thinking, you will stop defenders from grabbing onto attackers, which is the intended eventual outcome of using VAR to police these things. So I guess eventually it will work out. It will cut down these kinds of things eventually, but get used to penalties like this for the foreseeable future. After Sergio Ramos put Real Madrid ahead from the spot, Luka Modric scored late to make it 3-1. This was very reminiscent of Real Madrid's style of play from their winning run to win the league last season. Yes, Barcelona had more of the ball, but they weren't developing many scoring chances with the ball. Real had at least 2 other occasions in which they really should have scored in the second half. And in looking at the substitutions made by each manager, you gotta hand it to Zidane, as each one of his had an impact. 2 of them linked up for Real Madrid's 3rd goal in Rodrigo and Modric, while Lucas Vazquez filled in brilliantly as a right back for the injured Nacho, a substitution Zidane was forced to make. Barcelona subs, well, first of all, with his team trailing since the 63rd minute, Koeman only made changes in the 82nd minute, and none of his subs had any impact on the match, really. Griezmann, Trincão, Dembele, nothing. 3-1 Real Madrid in the first Clasico of the season, and Zidane's record of never losing to Barcelona at the Camp Nou still stands. Valencia, I hate bringing them up anymore, but you know what I'm going to say at this point, right? Things aren't looking much better as they traveled down the coast to take on Elche, and despite dominating the second half, they still fell 2-1 to Elche, meaning they've racked up their 4th loss from their opening 7 matches. They're poor defensively, they're poor going forward. As well, I should say, Elche scored 2 goals with just 2 shots on target. That's the kind of luck and how poor Valencia have been. After getting embarrassed by Bayern Munich midweek with an uncharacteristic 4-0 loss, they leaked 4 goals. Atletico Madrid looked to bounce back against Real Betis at the Wanda Metropolitano. The first half was completely uninspired from Atletico, as they were dominated in almost every single way, but they really turned things around in the second half. Llorente scored right after the break, and Luis Suarez adding another goal in stoppage time, his 4th goal of the season. He's actually the joint top scorer in the league early doors. 2-0 win for Atletico Madrid as they remain the only undefeated team in La Liga. Sevilla continued a slump after last week's 1-0 loss to Granada. This week, they hosted Eibar and lost 1-0 once again. I think this is just a blip for Lopetegui's side, and I do see them coming out of this. There aren't many worrying signs here, besides perhaps their offense looking dull, but I mean, it was one of those games for them. They outshot Eibar 21-3, but their finishing was just terrible, while Eibar capitalized on just one of their 3 opportunities, En-Nesyri's finishing this season has been way too inconsistent if he is to lead Sevilla's line. They're going to need a much more solid and regular goal scorer than that. Otherwise, they're going to be hamstrung. Granada beat Getafe, which is a very interesting result in that it took Granada up to 13 points, level with Real Madrid. However, they aren't at the top of the table as that spot is reserved not for Real, but La Real. Real Sociedad, the future champs, who won their third match on the trot, and the goals really are flowing, aren't they? 14 scored, more than any other team. They are 1 point ahead of Real Madrid and Granada, with Villarreal not so far behind them. Barcelona have a couple of matches to make up for, but they are currently in 12th with 7 points from 5 matches. Better performance is necessary, of course, but still, they played 2 less than everyone else, and there's a long way to go. Bonus League! Paco comes in and he drops a bonus league right off the bat. That's right, the Eredivisie returns to the weekend recap, as there was absolutely no way we weren't going to talk about Dutch football after Ajax provided one of the most decadent, ludicrous scorelines I've ever seen. 13 goals against VVV Venlo on Saturday. Color me impressed, man. This was a collapse of epic biblical proportions, and the red card in the 51st minute is certainly not enough of an excuse for Venlo. I mean, it was 4-0 at that point already, with Lacina Traore on a hat-trick. Traore went on to score no less than 5 goals in this game, and not only that, he added 3 assists as well, meaning that he had a hand in 8 of the 13 goals on the day. There was only 5 goals that he didn't have anything to do with. On top of that, 20-year-old Jurgen Ekkelenkamp had 2 goals and an assist in his first start of the season for the senior team. Antony with a goal and 2 assists. Klaas-Jan Huntelaar came out to the pitch in the 70th, and by the 76th, he already had 2 goals to his name. Just insanity, man. What an accomplishment. The first team ever to score 13 goals in an Eredivisie game. The previous record, 12, scored by Ajax back in May of 1972, over 48 years ago. Arjen Robben's FC Groningen, shall we check in on them? Robben has made just 2 appearances so far, actually, after getting injured in the first half hour of his second career debut. He returned from injury, but they are taking it slow with him currently, but his team has done well without him. After this weekend's victory over Fortuna Sittard, they have climbed up to 7th in the table. Vitesse Arnhem made sure they continued to breathe down the necks of league-leading Ajax in the standings, as they got a massive 2-1 victory over PSV this weekend. PSV's first loss of this Eredivisie season thus far, as Vitesse continue to roll on, their only loss being that 2-1 loss to Ajax from the end of September, so they're in great shape. Heerenveen aren't too far off the top either, as they had a great weekend themselves. It's funny, after seeing Ajax win 13-0, an extremely comfortable 4-0 victory for Heerenveen just seems a little less impressive somehow. But yeah, their opponents FC Emmen certainly didn't make it easy for themselves, as they had 2 players sent off in the second half, but I mean, it was already 2-0 at that point, so they were just spiraling, that's all. Feyenoord went away to Waalwijk and were given a very tough time from the side that had finished in 18th prior to the 1920 season getting called off, and they got to stay up. In fact, Ola John, shout out Ola John, put Waalwijk 2-1 up in the 80th minute, which would have been a very welcome scoreline for Feyenoord's fellow title hopefuls, but just 4 minutes later, Feyenoord came from behind for the second time and equalized via Haps. So, 2-2 the final, meaning Ajax and Vitesse are level on points with 15 apiece, with PSV and Heerenveen 2 points behind them. Still challenges to be mounted by, well, everyone, but from Twente and Feyenoord especially, I'm sure. And I'm interested to see what Groningen can do as well. Everton versus Southampton, the former being a team that many people are extremely excited about, and the latter being a team that deserves a little more praise, as Ralph Hasenhüttl has this Southampton team in great shape once again, not only this season, where they are battling it out with the top teams, but in this matchup with Everton, in which they made life extremely difficult for Carlo Ancelotti and the Blues. Everton found it difficult to cut through the Saints' defense, often passing horizontally as opposed to vertically. No real cutting passes in behind, which is a testament to Southampton's defense in this game. Last week they did leak 3 against Chelsea and scored 3, but they made life horrible for Everton. As per usual, Southampton's talisman, Danny Ings, was a top performer as he provided 2 assists in Southampton's 2-0 win, handing Everton their first loss of this season, winless in 2 matches now. Maybe should have had a loss against Liverpool as well, if not for that VAR ruling. But hey, that's just 1 loss for Everton thus far. Let's see if they can bounce back. Speaking of Liverpool, they hosted Sheffield United, a team who are still looking for their first victory of the season. And unfortunately for Chris Wilder and the Blades, they'll have to keep on looking. Their performance wasn't bad by any means against Liverpool. I don't think that Sheffield were poor, but they certainly didn't provide enough going forward to beat this Liverpool side. A Liverpool side that played with a bit of a different shape than usual as they adjust to life without Van Dijk in defense and Fabinho not in the midfield as he covers for the Dutchman. So Jota was playing alongside the usual front three, but in a 4-2-3-1 formation, a new option for Klopp. In fact, Fabinho was at the center of Sheffield United's opener as his tackle on Ollie McBurney was given as a penalty. An interesting one, a hairline decision, as you can see here. McBurney's foot is just on the white line. The white line is technically part of the box, hence why the penalty was given over a free kick. 1-0 to the Blades, but they didn't see out the half as the leaders, as Firmino equalized his first of the season, and a rare one because he scored at Anfield, something he struggles to do. Salah had a goal called back in the second half. We were really robbed of a stunner. Another marginal offside. It would be nice if there was a threshold, a threshold for offside, because really if your foot is, 6 inches ahead of your opponent, is that really that big of an advantage to cancel a goal because of it? I'm not so sure. But about a minute later, after that disallowed goal, Diogo Jota scored his second of the season for Liverpool. 2-1 the final there. Solid win for Liverpool. Chelsea versus Manchester United. Not much to talk about here. Chelsea were denied a penalty from this sort of grappling from a corner kick. And just as we had spoken about during our coverage of El Clasico and that Ramos incident, if the aim is to crack down on the grappling from corners and free kicks, which they had initially stated was one of the things VAR was looking to clamp down on, and if Longley is punished for pulling the shirt, and if that will be enough of a deterrent for him to not pull the shirt of his opponent in the future, Maguire getting away with this one won't deter him from grappling in the future, will it? Inconsistencies across Europe, baby. On Friday night, Aston Villa were handed their first loss of the season as well. There isn't a single team in the Premier League that is undefeated at this point. Leeds have continued their impressive form as Bielsa's side were ruthless. They destroyed Villa, it's fair to say. 27 attempts fired towards goal by Leeds. 27. Bielsa employed Rodrigo and Bamford. Rodrigo sort of playing off of Bamford, who featured as the striker. And they looked great in the second half as Bamford hit a hat-trick, 3-0. But Villa have a chance to bounce back against, another informed team in Southampton. Long may West Ham's solid form continue. This season is providing a lot of interest with all of the, I guess you would call them unfancied teams, providing some great results early doors, West Ham being one of those providers of such. After getting that 3-3 draw with Spurs last weekend, they took on City this week and held them to a 1-1 draw. 2 big points against difficult opponents. Mikel Antonio with a goal for West Ham. Foden getting the equalizer. City's defense not necessarily poor, but their offense looking uninspired at times. I would have liked to have seen KDB or Foden start ahead of Gundogan, but that's just me. Jamie Vardy loves little more than scoring against the big teams in the Premier League, and sure enough he did so against Arsenal this weekend, capping off a stunning counter-attack with a diving header from Under's perfectly placed cross. Both of these teams continue to be pretty unpredictable, but one thing is for sure, Brendan Rodgers got this one absolutely perfectly right in the second half, as they didn't give Arsenal room to breathe. A completely different side Leicester were. I think the stats said that Arsenal had just a single attempt in the second half. One-way traffic, 1-0 Leicester, and that translates to Everton and Liverpool on 13 points apiece at the top, while Villa and Leicester are on 12. Look at this table, man. City and United in the bottom half with just 5 matches played apiece. Still very early though, guys. Expect much change in the coming weeks. RB Leipzig cannot be moved at the top of the Bundesliga table as they made it 5 wins from 5 with their 2-1 victory over Hertha Berlin this weekend. In his first start for his new club, striker Alexander Sorloth set up Dayot Upamecano in the 11th minute. Sort of. He got the sort of assist a signpost would get as Upamecano's initial strike bounced off of the big Norwegian, only for Upamecano to slam home the rebound. 1-1 there, as this was actually the equalizer to Jean Cordoba's goal in the 8th minute for Hertha. Cordoba, as you may remember, was with Köln the last few seasons, and he has started extremely well with his new club. 3 goals from 5 appearances. In the second half, as Hertha's Deovosio Zifuik got 2 yellow cards in 3 minutes, very frustrating if you're Labadia, Leipzig really grabbed hold of this match. Marcel Sabitzer dispatched a penalty in the 77th minute, his first goal of the season, and that was the winner. 2-1 Leipzig, a spotless record for them still, and they play Gladbach next in the league. Gladbach themselves got a win this weekend in a 5-goal thriller against Mainz. Marco Rosa's side were 2-1 down for much of this match as Mainz's JP Mateta scored a first half brace. Gladbach left it late, but thanks to Jonas Hoffmann converting a penalty in the 76th minute. He's in some hot form, by the way, as he has scored in 3 consecutive matches now. That brought Gladbach level, and he then set up Ginter for the winner. Marco Rose hasn't tasted defeat since September 19th now. That's 5 matches undefeated, ahead of their Tuesday night clash with Real Madrid, which we will be doing a watch-along for. The last team Gladbach lost to, Borussia Dortmund, and they played against an extremely fragile FC Schalke side in the Revier Derby this weekend. And to be fair to Dortmund, 3-0 was very flattering to Schalke, as the Black-Yellow really should have had more goals in this one. In his return to the lineup, Manuel Akanji started and scored in the 55th minute. And just 6 minutes after that, Haaland and Sancho combined to double the lead. Haaland's 5th goal of the season and Sancho's 2nd assist of the season. And finally, it was the other centre-back for Dortmund, Mats Hummels, that scored their 3rd goal as Rafael Guerreiro set him up. Great match from Dortmund's back line as they limited Schalke to 0 shots on target. They got in the way of everything, and a goal apiece for Akanji and Hummels, plus the assist for Guerreiro. Great stuff. Not so great for Schalke, however, as they are still looking for their first victory across all competitions since February 4th, 2020. That was in the DFB Pokal, by the way. In the Bundesliga, it gets worse, as Schalke haven't won since January 17th, 2020, when they beat Gladbach 2-0 at home. Nightmare stuff for them and their fans. Guys, there has been a disturbance in the force. After 4 consecutive draws, VfL Wolfsburg have only gone and won a match. Their fans are absolutely distraught, as their dreams of 34 draws from 34 matches during the season were dashed, thanks in large part to their own player, Maximilian Arnold, who scored and assisted in VfL Wolfsburg's 2-1 victory over Arminia Bielefeld. He could have just assisted and left it at that. And finally, remember last season when Eintracht Frankfurt beat Bayern Munich 5-0, it cost Niko Kovac his job, then Hansi Flick got hired, then they went on this insane run and dominated the Bundesliga once again, and nobody could touch them, and then they won the Champions League? Well, this season, the score was in the opposite direction, as Robert Lewandowski continues to be nothing less than prolific for Bayern. From 5 matches, he scored 10 goals already, as he threatens to do even better than last season's goal-scoring exploits. Lewandowski scored the first 3 goals of this match, with Bunassar setting up Leroy Sané for the 4th, and Jamal Musiala continuing to impress for Bayern as he scored the 5th goal of the night. The 17-year-old Englishman has scored twice for Bayern this season, despite not starting a match yet. A promising future for him as another Englishman gains invaluable experience in the Bundesliga. 5-0 Bayern, the biggest tragedy of which being Davies going off injured in the 3rd minute, and it looks like he'll be out for 4 to 6 weeks or so. Bayern, of course, sit in 2nd behind the perfect RB Leipzig. Dortmund are level on points with Bayern as they boast identical records. And look at Stuttgart, newly promoted, but you never know it, as their draw with Köln has them on 8 points from 5 matches. Fiorentina suffered a scare against Udinese on Sunday as they were 3-1 up with just a few minutes remaining before Udinese's Stefano Okaka brought the visitors within a goal of tying the match. Tons of pressure from Udinese didn't break the hosts as La Viola held on to a 3-2 victory. Gaetano Castrovilli was the hero for Fiorentina as he scored a brace and grabbed an assist. He had his fingerprints all over this match. Fiorentina needed this victory as they have struggled just a little bit this season. It's still early, I know. Yes, that's the motto of this show today. And these 3 points pushed them back into the top 10. Speaking of needing 3 points, Lazio were in need of a domestic victory after their extremely competent victory over Borussia Dortmund midweek, which will, if you're Simone Inzaghi, hopefully prove to have been a turning point in their season. It's not that they've been very bad, it's just they haven't been very good. It would have been a frustrating one for Bologna as they had all of the ball and some great opportunities to score beyond their sole goal that they did score, but Luis Alberto continued his good run of form in getting a goal, and Ciro Immobile, of course he scored. 2-1 Lazio. Inter Milan, another team that is trying to get their season up and running performance-wise, they at least got a victory this weekend as they traveled away to Genoa, the dudes with the COVID outbreak, remember? And a strong second half performance from Inter Milan got them the 2-0 victory. That first half was an absolute snoozer though. Nicolo Barella came on for Christian Eriksen in the 58th minute, and the substitute went on to set up Lukaku. Just 6 minutes later, brilliant pass through the legs of the defender from Barella, and Lukaku cut inside viciously to score his 7th of the season for Inter, 5 in the Serie A, 2 in the Champions League. And actually, for club and country, he's failed to score in just 1 match so far, Inter's draw with Lazio. But when counting his goals for Belgium, Lukaku has scored 10 goals in 8 appearances so far this season. Incredible form. He scored another later, but the flag went up. But in the 79th minute, Danilo D'Ambrosio with a header from a few feet off of the line. 2-0 Inter. Decent win for them there, as Genoa were limited to doing next to nothing. 1 strike towards goal, 0 on target. Genoa were dead out there. Atalanta's domestic form needs to be addressed at the moment, as they lost 3-1 to a recently surging Sampdoria. Atalanta have lost 2 on the trot now after their 4-1 loss to Napoli last weekend, while Sampdoria, they're on now a 3-match winning streak. What? Atalanta certainly did enough to win this match, as they came close on so many occasions, but credit to Sampdoria as they weathered the storm, and despite missing a penalty on the stroke of halftime, and despite facing an onslaught from Atalanta, they held on for that 3-1 victory I mentioned before. Fantastic result for them after an uninspired finish last season. They finished in 15th. Could and probably should have been 3-0, as I still have no idea why Atalanta got a penalty in the 80th minute. I couldn't figure it out. Even after the VAR review, couldn't figure it out. But anyways, shout out Claudio Ranieri, as he has Sampdoria playing quite well with that dilly-ding, dilly-dong going on. Napoli got their 2nd consecutive win after they too beat Atalanta last week, as mentioned last week. But this week, Gattuso's side were frustrated by Benevento, but ultimately came out on the other side with the 3 points. Matteo Politano continues to excel with Napoli, as he grabbed 2 assists, and in his first start since September 20th, Insigne scored a goal. Let me be clear. Lorenzo Insigne scored for Napoli, while his brother, Roberto Insigne, scored for Benevento in this match. Isn't that just the cutest thing? A good comeback from Napoli, considering they were 1-0 down after 59 minutes, and less than 10 minutes later, they were in the lead. Juventus were held once again in Serie A as they took on Hellas Verona. Alvaro Morata scored in first half stoppage time. Nice goal, but called off for offside, unfortunately. Would have made for goals in 3 consecutive matches, though he later set up Kulusevski with what was Juve's equalizer, so his good patch of form does indeed continue. One positive for Juve was certainly the performance overall of Merit Demiral, as he has looked better and better with each game that has gone on that he is featured in. And the early performances of Kulusevski are something to be very excited about as well. With some better finishing, Juve could have, and quite frankly should have, won this match at home. But that draw leaves them in 5th place for the moment, 1 point behind Inter, and despite not playing their 5th match yet, that happens today, Milan lead the league with a game in hand. If they beat Roma today, they'll be 4 points clear of Napoli at the top. And so, my friends, another weekend over, but a reminder for you. Join us for a watch-along or 2 this week. Come say hi, talk football, and let's watch the matches together. I'm Paco, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later. Peace.